In 29 years of operation, no inmate had ever escaped Alcatraz alive. 1. 25 miles of open water in every direction, current strong enough to drag a man to the open Pacific, water temperature locked at 50 degrees Fahrenheit. The Bureau of Prisons called it inescapable. They had no idea. 4 a.m., June 12, 1962. A guard walks the top tier of cell block B, flashlight cutting through the dark. The beam sweeps across a row of beds. He stops. Something is wrong with the head on the pillow in cell B150. The skin tone is right, the hair looks real, but the texture. He reaches out and touches it. It's made of soap. He pulls back his hand and swings the flashlight to the next cell. Another head, same lifeless stillness, same painted flesh, same real human hair pressed into a sculpted scalp. He moves to the third. Same. 3 beds, 3 dummy heads staring at the ceiling with hollow painted eyes. 3 missing prisoners. In a single night, Alcatraz's perfect record, the one thing the Bureau of Prisons could always point to, is over. But to understand how 3 men vanished from an island fortress surrounded by freezing water, you have to go back. Not to the night of the escape, to the day the man who designed it arrived. January 1960. Frank Morris steps off the prison launch onto Alcatraz Island. He is lean, sharp-faced, with a receding hairline and eyes that never stop measuring. IQ of 133, tested and confirmed. Convicted bank robber. He's been in and out of federal institutions since he was 13 years old. And he has escaped from nearly every one of them. Louisiana State Penitentiary, a federal reformatory in Virginia, a prison in Florida. The system's answer to its own failure is simple. Put the man who can escape anywhere in the one place no one can escape from. His cell is 5 feet by 9 feet. A steel cot, a small shelf, a toilet, a sink. Behind his head, bolted to the wall, there is a 6 by 9 inch air vent covered by a rusted metal grill. Behind that grill there are 8 inches of concrete. And behind those 8 inches there is a 3-foot wide utility corridor that runs the full length of cell block B. Morris doesn't know about the corridor yet, but he will. He has no tools, no weapons, no allies, no blueprints of the building, no knowledge of the tides, no boat, no rope, no wire cutters. He is one man in a 5 by 9 foot cell on an island designed by the federal government to hold men exactly like him. Everything he will use to escape, he will have to steal, build, or invent from whatever the prison itself provides. It starts with a dime. Morris scrapes the edge of a coin against the concrete surrounding his vent grill one evening after lights out. He expects resistance. What he gets is dust. The concrete crumbles. Decades of salt air blowing off San Francisco Bay have eaten into the walls from the inside. The prison looks impenetrable from the outside. Thick concrete, steel bars, armed guard towers. But behind the vent, the wall is soft. He tests again with a spoon. Its handle sharpened against the dime's edge. Chips of concrete fall into his palm like wet chalk. He holds them in the dim blue light of his cell and turns them over. The impossible has a flaw, and it has been hiding 6 inches behind his head every night for months. Morris is not a man who trusts easily. He has survived by trusting no one. But he understands one thing. He cannot cross San Francisco Bay alone. The water is 50 degrees. The currents run sideways at 4 to 5 knots, strong enough to pull a swimmer into the open Pacific in minutes. He needs men who can survive that water. And in the cells nearby, he finds them. John and Clarence Anglin, brothers, stocky, broad-shouldered, farm-built from a family of 13 children raised in rural Georgia. They grew up swimming in Lake Michigan during the summers their family spent picking cherries in Michigan. Cold gray water, temperatures that would paralyze most men in minutes. The Anglins don't just tolerate cold water. They were raised in it. John is the quieter of the two. A man whose hands are always working something, whittling, shaping, building. Clarence is nearly his twin, slightly taller, always positioned near his brother. They have been inseparable through every prison they've been sent to. Morris has the plan. The Anglins have the arms, the endurance, and the one ability no one else in Alcatraz possesses, the capacity to not drown in San Francisco Bay. Trust between them is not declared, it is built. Night after night they meet in the utility corridor behind the cells, crouching in a space barely 3 feet wide, whispering plans in near total darkness. Every meeting is a shared risk. Every return to their cells without being caught is a deposit of faith. The alliance between Morris and the Anglin brothers becomes the engine of everything that follows. There is a fourth man, Alan West. He is part of the plan from the very beginning. He helps design the escape route, contributes ideas about the raft construction, chips at his own vent grill every night alongside the others. West is thinner, more anxious. His hands move with less certainty. But he takes the same risks. 4 men bound by a secret that, if discovered, would add decades to their sentences. Morris builds a drill. He takes a motor from a broken vacuum cleaner used to clean the corridors and modifies it to bore through concrete quietly enough to avoid detection during nighttime guard rounds. The low hum of the motor disappears beneath the ambient noise of the cell block. The clanking pipes, the distant foghorns, the breathing of 300 sleeping men. Night after night, the drill bites into the wall around the vent. Concrete dust coats Morris's hands and settles on every surface. He wipes it away before dawn. Then come the dummy heads. This is John Anglin's work. He sculpts them from bars of soap, building up the shape of a human face with layers of toothpaste and toilet paper pressed into ridges for cheekbones and brows. He steals flesh-colored paint from the prison's art supply room. Alcatraz, in a peculiar irony, offers painting classes to its inmates. And the hair, real human hair, swept from the barbershop floor strand by strand, smuggled back to the cells in pockets and waistbands, then pressed into the soft surface of the sculpted scalps. Each head takes weeks. When finished and placed on a pillow in the dim light of a cell, with a blanket pulled up to the chin, they are disturbingly convincing. Not perfect. But in the 3 seconds a guard's flashlight lingers on each cell during a nighttime count, they are enough. The raft is the most ambitious piece. Over the course of months, the 4 men steal more than 50 raincoats from the prison, taken from storage, from other inmates, from anywhere they can find the rubberized fabric. Morris designs the construction. The seams are vulcanized using heat from a hot water pipe that runs through the utility corridor, pressed against the metal until the rubber bonds. The result is a 6 by 14-foot inflatable vessel. Paddles are carved from plywood scraps. A stolen concertina, a small accordion-like instrument, is repurposed as a bellows to inflate the raft. Everything is assembled in the pipe shaft above the cells, a vertical space accessible only by climbing 30 feet of iron pipes, hand over hand in total darkness. Every night for months, the 4 men climb up after lights out, work for hours in the pipe shaft with the raft materials, climb back down, place the dummy heads on their pillows, and sleep. The physical toll is immense. The risk is absolute. 1 missed count, 1 curious guard, 1 moment of bad luck, and the entire plan collapses. 9:30 p.m., June 11, 1962. The night arrives. Frank Morris pulls the vent grill from his wall for the last time. He places the dummy head on his pillow, arranges the blanket to simulate a sleeping body, and squeezes his lean frame through the 6 by 9-inch opening. His shoulders barely fit. The concrete scrapes skin from his arms. On the other side, the utility corridor is dark and narrow. He can hear the Anglin brothers doing the same in their cells. The faint scrape of bodies through widened vents, the careful placement of soap heads on pillows. In his cell, Alan West pushes against his vent grill. It does not move. He pushes harder, both hands flat against the metal, pressing with everything he has. The concrete around his opening has not been chipped enough. The gap is too narrow by inches. He can hear the others in the corridor now. The soft pad of feet on concrete, the rustle of movement heading upward toward the pipe shaft. They are climbing. They are leaving. West pushes until his knuckles split and his hands bleed. The grill shifts a fraction of an inch but does not give. The man who helped design every detail of the escape, the routes, the raft, the timing, the dummy heads, is left behind by a margin of unfinished concrete so small you could measure it with a ruler. He stands alone in his cell, hands bleeding, listening to the sound of his plan succeeding without him. In the corridor, Morris and the Anglins begin the climb. 30 feet of vertical pipe shaft. Hand over hand, iron cold against their palms, sweat running despite the chill. The raft and paddles are already stashed at the top from months of nightly trips. At the summit, a roof ventilator blocks their exit, held in place by a bolt. A fake bolt, carved from soap by Morris weeks earlier, painted to match the surrounding metal. They pry it free. The ventilator opens. Open sky, wind on their faces, stars overhead for the first time in years. The shock of it, the sheer physical sensation of being outside after years of ceilings and concrete, must have been staggering. But there is no time. They cross the roof of cell block B in a low crouch, moving along a path they have mapped in their minds for months. The guard tower sightlines have been studied, measured, memorized. The northeast shore is the one blind spot. a narrow strip of rocky ground where the tower angles leave a gap. They descend the building's outer wall using drain pipes, feet finding holds in the dark, metal cold and slick against their hands. Then solid ground, rocks under their feet. The shoreline. They unroll the raft on the rocks. The concertina bellows wheezes as they pump air into the rubberized fabric. The raft takes shape. Yellow-green rubber against black stone, smelling of hot pipe and stolen raincoats. They push it into the water. The bay is black. 50 degrees. Fog sits low on the surface, cutting visibility to yards. Behind them, Alcatraz rises dark against the sky, its single searchlight beam sweeping in the wrong direction. Ahead, through the fog, the lights of San Francisco glow warm and amber. Impossibly distant, impossibly close. They paddle. 3 men on a raft made of stolen raincoats, using plywood paddles, crossing 25 miles of water with currents that can drag a man to the open Pacific. The rhythm of the paddles, water slapping against rubber. Cold spray on their faces and arms. The pull of the current, sideways, relentless, trying to drag them west toward the open ocean. The lights of Alcatraz shrink behind them. The lights of the city grow ahead. And then the fog closes around them, and they disappear. 4 a.m., June 12, 1962. The guard walks the tier. His flashlight finds the first cell, the head on the pillow. He reaches out. Soap and human hair. The alarm sounds, a siren cutting through the pre-dawn silence of the island. Guards flood cell block B, 3 beds, 3 dummy heads, 3 empty cells. Alcatraz's 29-year record of 0 successful escapes is shattered in a single night. And the story has returned to where it began. But now you know what it took. The 6 months of digging, the trust forged in a 3-foot corridor, the raft assembled 30 feet above sleeping prisoners, the 4th man left behind with bleeding hands. The dummy head is no longer a mystery. It is a monument to what 4 men built and 3 men used. Alan West tells the FBI everything. He is taken to an interrogation room, harsh overhead light, institutional blue walls, and he talks. He describes the raft, the route, the dummy heads, the months of preparation, the pipe shaft, the rooftop crossing. He is the only person alive who knows the full plan. He is the map to what happened. And he is the proof that it was real. Because a man who helped design every detail of an escape and then failed to execute it has no reason to lie. West will serve the rest of his sentence. He will never leave Alcatraz as a free man. The FBI searches for 17 years. From 1962 to 1979, federal agents comb San Francisco Bay, the surrounding coastline, and leads across the country. They find fragments of a raincoat raft washed up on Angel Island, 2 miles north of Alcatraz. They find a sealed waterproof bag containing photographs and addresses belonging to the Anglin family. They find paddle fragments. What they do not find is a body, not one, not a bone, not a scrap of clothing, not a single piece of physical evidence that Morris or either of the Anglin brothers died in the water. The Bureau of Prisons officially declares that the 3 men drowned. The case is closed, but the United States Marshal Service does not agree. Their position, maintained to this day, is that the case remains open. 3 fugitives are still listed as wanted. Then, in 2013, 51 years after the escape, a handwritten letter arrives at the San Francisco Police Department. The handwriting is shaky, the letters uneven, the paper creased. It reads, "My name is John Anglin. I escaped from Alcatraz in June 1962 with my brother Clarence and Frank Morris. I'm 83 years old and in bad shape. I have cancer. Yes, we all made it that night, but barely." The FBI reopens the investigation. Forensic analysts examine the handwriting. The results are inconclusive, neither confirmed nor denied as John Anglin's. The letter offers to surrender in exchange for medical treatment. "If you announce on TV that I will be promised to first go to the hospital and get the medical attention I need, I will write back to tell you exactly where I am. This is no joke. No announcement is ever made. No second letter arrives. The case file remains open. The letter remains unverified. The bodies remain unfound. 3 men vanished from America's most escape-proof prison using modified spoons, a drill made from a vacuum motor, dummy heads sculpted from soap and real human hair, and a raft stitched together from 50 stolen raincoats. They crossed 125 miles of 50-degree water on a June night in 1962. 62 years later, no one knows if they lived or died. The only certainty is this. On the night of June 11, 1962, Alcatraz was not inescapable. If you want to hear about the night a family escaped East Berlin in a homemade hot air balloon, that story is next.